The massive alien warship cast a dark shadow over Earth's orbital repair station 7 as it limped toward the docking bay. Its sleek purple hull, normally a sight of power and grace, now bore ugly scorch marks along its port side. Tom Miller stood at the observation deck, his coffee forgotten in his hand as he watched the ship's approach. "Well, that's something you don't see every day," he muttered, scratching his gray-streaked beard. In his 15 years as station chief, this was the first time a Grade A military vessel from the United Systems had requested emergency repairs at a human facility. The ship's engine sputtered, releasing occasional bursts of blue plasma that shouldn't have been visible. Whatever had happened to the vessel, it wasn't good. Tom pressed the intercom button on his wrist device. "All hands to Dock 4. This is not a drill. I repeat, all hands to Dock 4. As Tom hurried through the station's corridors, his mind wandered back to humanity's first contact 30 years ago. He had been just a kid then, watching on TV as the alien ships appeared over every major city. Everyone expected either an invasion or some profound exchange of advanced technology. Instead, the aliens seemed almost disappointed by humanity's primitive approach to engineering. The memory made Tom smile now. Those same aliens were about to learn a thing or two about primitive engineering. When he reached Dock 4, his team was already assembled. Beth from structural analysis, Ray from power systems, and Pete from general mechanics, all the best Earth had to offer. The alien ship was just completing its docking procedure, its massive form making their station look tiny in comparison. The docking tube extended with a hiss of hydraulics, and Tom straightened his jacket. "Remember, folks, we're representing Earth here. Let's show them what humans can do." The airlock cycled, and 3 figures emerged. 2 were clearly engineers, wearing the distinctive silver suits of the United Systems Technical Corps. The third was the ship's captain, tall and imposing in a deep purple uniform that matched the ship's hull. "I am Captain Rax of the U.S. Victory," the alien announced, his universal translator giving his words a slight metallic echo. "We require immediate assistance. Our own engineers have failed to identify the malfunction." Tom stepped forward, extending his hand before remembering that United Systems species didn't shake hands. He quickly converted the gesture into a respectful bow. "Station Chief Tom Miller, we'll do everything we can to help. Can you describe the problem?" The alien engineers activated a holographic display showing the ship's diagnostic readouts. To Tom's surprise, most systems appeared to be functioning normally, yet the ship was clearly in distress. "All automated diagnostics show green status," one engineer explained, frustration evident in his voice. "Yet we cannot maintain stable warp flight. We've replaced every component that could possibly be causing this, but the problem persists." Tom nodded, studying the readouts. He'd seen something similar before, though on a much smaller scale. "With your permission, Captain, I'd like my team to do an old-fashioned walkthrough inspection. Sometimes human eyes spot things that sensors miss." The captain's expression was unreadable, but Tom caught a slight twitch in his upper appendages that suggested skepticism. "Your inspection methods are manual?" "Yes, sir. We find it's often the best way to start." The alien engineers exchanged looks that practically screamed, "Primitive humans," but the captain simply nodded. "Proceed. We have little choice in the matter." As Tom led his team aboard the massive ship, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humans might not have the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but they had something just as valuable: experience with failure. While alien races had developed perfectly automated systems, humans had spent centuries learning how things could go wrong and how to fix them. "All right, team," Tom said as they entered the ship's main engineering section. "Let's show them why sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Pete, check the mechanical linkages. Beth, run your hand along those power conduits. Sometimes you can feel problems that sensors can't detect. Ray, let's see what those engine vibrations can tell us." The hunt was on, and Tom had a feeling they were about to change some alien minds about primitive human engineering. Jane Cooper walked slowly along the massive engine room of the alien warship, her boots making soft clicking sounds against the metal floor. Unlike her alien counterparts who kept staring at their advanced scanners, she preferred to use her senses, a habit that had saved many ships in her 10 years as lead engineer. Something wasn't right. She could feel it. "There," she said, stopping near a junction of power cables. "Listen." The alien engineers looked up from their devices, their expressions showing confusion. Captain Rax stood nearby, watching with what seemed like growing impatience. "I don't hear anything unusual," one of the alien engineers said, consulting his scanner again. "All readings are within normal parameters." Jane smiled and pulled an old stethoscope from her toolkit. The alien stared at the simple device as if she had produced a stone axe. She pressed it against the metal wall and closed her eyes, listening carefully. "That's because you're not supposed to hear anything here," she explained. "But there's a very faint clicking. Tom, come listen to this." Station Chief Miller stepped forward and took the stethoscope. After a moment, his eyes widened. "Well, I'll be damned. It's a mechanical relay." The alien captain stepped closer. His interest finally sparked. "Impossible. We don't use mechanical relays in our systems. Everything is quantum-based." Jane pulled out a small cutting torch from her belt. "Captain, with your permission, I'd like to open this panel. I think I know what's wrong with your ship." After a moment's hesitation, Captain Rax nodded. Jane carefully cut through the panel's edges, revealing a maze of glowing circuits and power conduits. But there, hidden behind all the advanced technology, was exactly what she expected to find. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a small mechanical component. "When your ship was built, someone installed a manual override system. It's not in any of your ship's diagrams because it's not supposed to be there." The alien engineers crowded around, their professional dignity forgotten in their curiosity. The captain leaned in as well, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "But why would anyone install primitive mechanical systems in our ships?" he asked. Tom smiled. "Because sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the best solution. This override was probably installed by someone who understood that even quantum systems can fail. When they do, you need a backup that works on basic physical principles." Jane nodded, already reaching for her tools. "The good news is, this is an easy fix. The bad news is, your automated systems would never have found it because they're designed to ignore primitive technology like this." As she worked, Jane explained what had happened. The mechanical override had partially engaged, likely during a recent battle or severe maneuver. It wasn't enough to completely disable the quantum drive, but it created small irregularities that made stable warp flight impossible. "Think of it like having your parking brake partially engage," she said, using the simple comparison. "Your engine is strong enough to overcome it, but it's not good for the ship." 20 minutes later, Jane closed the panel and stood up, wiping grease from her hands. "That should do it. Try your engines now." Captain Rax signaled to his bridge, and the massive ship hummed to life. The subtle vibration that had been present earlier was gone, replaced by the smooth purr of perfectly functioning engines. The alien engineers were frantically taking notes and scanning the repair site. Captain Rax turned to Tom and Jane, his posture notably different, more respectful. "I must admit," he said, "we may have been hasty in our judgment of human engineering practices. Your ability to combine basic mechanical principles with advanced technology is impressive." Tom grinned. "Sometimes the old ways and the new ways work better together. Would you like us to check the rest of your override systems while you're here? Just to make sure there aren't any other surprises waiting." The captain's quick agreement told them everything they needed to know. As the news of this repair would spread, Tom knew this wouldn't be the last advanced ship to visit their primitive repair station. Jane patted the ship's wall affectionately. "You know what the real irony is," she said to Tom as they walked back to their tools. Whoever installed these mechanical overrides probably saved this ship's crew more than once. Sometimes the best technology isn't the newest. It's the most reliable. Mike Wilson never thought his 20 years of fixing cars in Detroit would lead to him working on alien spaceships. Yet here he was, 3 months after the U.S. Victory incident, hanging upside down in a maintenance shaft of a galactic trade vessel, using a modified wrench to adjust what was essentially a very fancy spark plug. "How's it looking up there, Mike?" Tom's voice echoed through the shaft. Just like an old Ford V8, Mike called back, grinning. "Except this one powers a city-sized spaceship." The repair station's observation deck was packed with ships nowadays. Word had spread quickly through the galactic channels about how humans had fixed the unfixable Victory. Now they had alien vessels lined up for repairs like cars at a popular garage back on Earth. Mike finished the adjustment and climbed down from the shaft. 3 alien merchants waited anxiously nearby, their tentacles twisting in what he had learned was a sign of worry. Their ship's AI system had been telling them for weeks that everything was perfect, even as the engine's performance got worse and worse. "All done," Mike said, wiping his hands on his work overalls. "Your problem was carbon buildup in the plasma injectors. Your automated systems are too sensitive. They shut down at the first sign of trouble instead of burning through it like they should." The aliens exchanged glances through their environmental suits. The tallest one stepped forward. But the ship's artificial intelligence said the injectors were operating at optimal efficiency. Mike laughed. "Yeah, and my old car's computer used to tell me everything was fine right before it broke down. Sometimes you've got to trust your ears and eyes more than the computers." He patted the engine housing. "Take her for a spin. She'll run better than new." The merchants were skeptical, but followed his advice. Their ship lifted off smoothly, the engines humming with a clean, powerful sound that had been missing before. Mike watched through the observation window as they did a test run around Earth's orbit, moving faster and more smoothly than they had in months. Later that day, in the station's break room, Tom called a meeting of all the senior engineers. The room was crowded. They'd had to hire dozens of new mechanics to handle all the repair requests. "All right, folks," Tom said, looking around at his team. "I just gotten word from Earth Central Command. The Galactic Council has officially requested that we open our repair methods to other species." Jane Cooper, who was sipping her coffee in the corner, raised an eyebrow. "They want to learn our primitive techniques." "Exactly," Tom replied with a smile. "They've realized that their AI systems, while incredibly advanced, can't replace good old-fashioned human problem-solving. Mike, tell them what you found on that trader ship this morning." Mike set down his sandwich. "Same thing we've been seeing a lot lately. Their computers are so focused on keeping everything perfect that they can't handle normal wear and tear. They shut down systems that could keep running with a little adjustment, and they miss simple mechanical problems because they're too busy monitoring the quantum stuff." The room buzzed with conversation. Everyone had similar stories. Alien ships with amazing technology being stopped by simple mechanical issues that any human mechanic could spot in minutes. "Here's the interesting part," Tom continued, holding up his tablet. "The Council wants us to start a training program. They're sending engineers from 12 different species to learn our repair methods. They want to learn from us." Someone asked from the back of the room. "The supposedly primitive humans." "Turns out being primitive has its advantages," Jane said with a grin. "We learn to fix things by getting our hands dirty. You can't program that kind of experience into a computer." Tom nodded. "That's right. And now we're going to teach the galaxy that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Mike, I want you to head up the practical training program. Jane, you'll handle the theory side. Show them how Earth mechanics think about problems." As the meeting wrapped up, Mike looked out the window at the line of alien ships waiting for repairs. Each one was a marvel of technology, far more advanced than anything humans had built. Yet they all needed what humans had been doing for centuries: the ability to spot problems, think creatively, and fix things with their own hands. From fixing cars to teaching aliens, he muttered to himself, smiling. Wait until my old man hears about this. The emergency alert blared through Orbital Repair Station 7 at 3 a.m. Earth time. Tom Miller, who had been dozing in his office, jolted awake at the sound. His computer screen flashed red with an urgent message that made his heart skip a beat. Alert. Diplomatic vessel Unity requesting immediate emergency assistance. Engine failure. 12 ambassadors on board. Critical situation. Tom hit the station-wide comm button. All emergency teams to Dock 1 immediately. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The Unity was one of the most important ships in the galaxy, a massive diplomatic vessel that carried representatives from 12 different species to crucial peace talks and trade negotiations. If anything happened to those ambassadors, Jane Cooper and Mike Wilson arrived first, both looking like they'd dressed while running. The rest of the emergency crew poured in seconds later. What's the situation? Jane asked, already checking her tools. Tom pointed to the approaching ship on the main screen. Its normal graceful lines were gone. The vessel was barely maintaining stable flight, drifting sideways like a wounded animal. Complete engine failure. They've lost primary and secondary power systems. They're running on emergency power only. And that's failing too. Mike whistled low. How did all three systems fail at once? That's what we need to find out, Tom said. And fast. We've got 12 ambassadors up there, and if we don't fix this quick, we could have an interstellar incident on our hands. The Unity's captain appeared on the emergency channel. His usually pristine uniform was wrinkled, and all four of his eyes showed signs of stress. Station 7. This is Captain Dex. We've tried everything. Our best engineers can't figure it out. 3 different AI systems say there's nothing wrong, but we're losing power by the minute. Understood, Captain, Tom replied calmly. We're ready to receive you. Just hold her steady for a few more minutes. The docking procedure was tense. Without main power, the Unity had to be guided in manually using small maneuvering thrusters. Tom watched as his team coordinated with the ship's crew, providing directions in precise, measured tones. One wrong move could send the massive vessel crashing into the station. Finally, with a gentle thud and the hiss of emergency seals, the Unity was secured. Tom led his team aboard, passing through corridors filled with nervous diplomatic staff from a dozen worlds. The ship's engine room was chaos. Alien engineers from 3 different species argued over diagnostic readings, while their AI systems continued to insist everything was functioning normally. Everyone, please step back, Tom announced. Let my team take a look. The alien engineers fell silent, watching as the humans began their work. Jane went straight for the main power core, while Mike headed to the backup systems. Tom coordinated between them, gathering information. After 10 tense minutes, Jane's voice crackled over the comm. Tom, you need to see this. Bring the captain. In the cramped space behind the main power core, Jane pointed to something that made the alien engineers gasp. A small dark object floated in the coolant system. Is that what I think it is? Tom asked. Jane nodded. Space debris. Probably hit them during their last warp jump. Punched through the outer hull. Must have been smaller then. The heat of the engine melted it, and it's been growing as it collected more material. Like a snowball made of metal. But our sensors, one of the alien engineers started, are designed to look for big problems. Mike finished. Not a tiny piece of debris that could slip through a gap smaller than my finger. Captain Dex leaned forward. Can you fix it? Tom looked at his team. Jane was already pulling out her specialized tools, while Mike calculated the best way to access the contaminated system. We can fix it, Tom said, but we'll have to do it the human way. No AI. No quantum mechanics, just good old-fashioned cleaning and repair work. It'll take about 6 hours. The captain glanced at the worried faces of his diplomatic passengers. We have no choice. Do what you must. As his team sprang into action, Tom couldn't help but smile. Once again, The most advanced technology in the galaxy was going to be saved by humans willing to get their hands dirty and look for the simplest solution. 6 hours into the repair of the Unity, Jane Cooper lay on her back underneath the massive power core, her face streaked with coolant fluid. Mike Wilson handed her tools while Tom kept the increasingly anxious alien diplomats updated on their progress. "I think I've figured out why their systems kept failing," Jane called out, her voice echoing in the chamber. "It's not just about the debris. It's about how their technology thinks about perfection." The alien engineers crowded closer, their various environmental suits humming in the confined space. Even the ambassadors, who had been waiting in their luxury quarters, had sent representatives to watch the humans work. "What do you mean?" asked one of the alien engineers, his translator making the words sound puzzled. Jane slid out from under the core, holding up a small piece of equipment. "Look at this power regulator. It's designed to work at 100% efficiency or not at all. When the debris started causing small fluctuations, instead of adjusting to work at 95% or even 90%, the system just shut down." Tom nodded, understanding dawning on his face. "And when the primary system failed, the backups tried to achieve the same perfect efficiency, and failed for the same reason," Mike finished. "It's like trying to drive a car only at the perfect speed. Sometimes you need to slow down for corners." The alien ambassador's representative, a tall figure in flowing robes, stepped forward. "Are you saying our technology's greatest strength is actually a weakness?" "Not exactly," Jane said, wiping her hands on a rag. "Your technology is amazing, but it's designed to work perfectly or not at all. Human technology is designed to keep working even when things aren't perfect." She pointed to the cleanup operation they'd set up. It was a surprisingly simple system, pumps and filters cobbled together from spare parts, slowly cleaning the contaminated coolant. "See this setup? It's not pretty. It's not perfect. But it works. And most importantly, it keeps working even when conditions aren't ideal." The aliens watched as dirty coolant flowed through the human-made filters, emerging clean on the other side. It was a basic process, something that would have been considered primitive by galactic standards. But it was working. Mike grinned as he adjusted one of the pump settings. "You know what my old boss at the garage used to say? Perfect is the enemy of good enough. Sometimes you need to let a machine run at 80% to keep it from failing completely." One of the alien engineers was frantically taking notes. "But our entire engineering philosophy is based on achieving maximum efficiency at all times." "Which is great when everything is working perfectly," Tom said. "But out here in real space, things are messy. Debris happens. Systems get old. Sometimes you need to be able to limp home instead of not moving at all." Jane slid back under the power core. "All right, let's finish this up. Mike, I need you to slowly restart the coolant flow. Tom, watch those pressure gauges. If we do this right, we can get the main power back online without shutting down the emergency systems." The next hour was tense as the humans carefully brought the Unity systems back to life. They didn't aim for perfect performance. Instead, they focused on stability, on finding the sweet spot where everything worked together despite minor imperfections. Finally, Jane emerged for the last time, her face tired but triumphant. "Try it now," she told the ship's captain. The Unity's engines hummed to life, not with their usual perfect pitch, but with a steady, reliable throb that every human recognized as the sound of a well-running machine. The ambassador's representative bowed deeply to the human team. "You have not just repaired our ship. You have taught us a valuable lesson about the nature of technology and progress." Tom smiled. "Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't about making everything perfect. It's about understanding how to work with imperfection." As the alien diplomats and engineers discussed this new perspective, Mike leaned over to Jane. "You know what this means, right? They're going to want us to teach them how to think like human engineers." Jane laughed. "Well, first lesson. Sometimes the best solution is the one that's just good enough to get you home." 2 months after the Unity incident, Repair Station 7 looked very different. The observation deck had been converted into a classroom, where Mike Wilson stood before an unusual group of students, 30 alien engineers from 15 different species, all eagerly taking notes as he held up an old car's spark plug. "This right here," Mike said, "is where human engineering started. Not with quantum drives or AI systems, but with simple mechanical parts that could be fixed with basic tools." The aliens peered at the spark plug through various visual enhancement devices. One of them raised an appendage. "But Instructor Mike," the alien asked, "why study such primitive technology when we have advanced systems?" Mike smiled, having expected this question. "Jane, could you come in here for a minute?" Jane Cooper walked into the classroom carrying what looked like a standard alien power coupling. She held it up next to the spark plug. "Look at these two parts," she said. "They were made centuries apart, but they do almost the same thing. They create a spark to start a reaction. The principle hasn't changed, just the scale and efficiency." Tom Miller watched from the doorway, feeling proud. After the successful repair of the Unity, the Galactic Council had not just requested human expertise, they had demanded it. Now, every major alien repair facility wanted at least one human engineer on staff. "The difference," Mike continued, "isn't in the technology. It's in how we think about repairs. When something breaks, we don't just replace it with a new part. We figure out why it broke, and sometimes we find a better way to fix it." In the station's main repair bay, another kind of exchange was taking place. Human mechanics worked alongside alien engineers, learning about advanced technology while teaching their primitive repair methods. The sight of a human teaching an 8-armed alien how to use a wrench, while the alien explained quantum field theory, had become common. "Watch this," an alien engineer said, demonstrating their automated repair system. The machine was a marvel, using tiny robots to fix microscopic problems. The human mechanic nodded appreciatively, then pointed to a worn bearing. "That's amazing for small repairs, but see how the whole bearing is wearing unevenly. Sometimes you need to step back and look at the bigger picture." In his office, Tom reviewed the latest reports from Earth Central Command. The exchange program was growing faster than anyone had expected. Humans were being hired across the galaxy not for their advanced knowledge, but for their unique problem-solving abilities and hands-on experience. Jane knocked on his door, carrying a tablet. "You're going to want to see this," she said, grinning. The Galactic Engineering Council just released their new guidelines. They're requiring all new ships to have manual backup systems and mechanical overrides. Tom laughed. "Let me guess. Inspired by primitive human design principles." "Exactly. They're calling it hybrid engineering, combining advanced technology with basic mechanical systems. But we all know where that idea came from." The station's communication system buzzed. A holographic display showed a massive cruise ship approaching, its engines clearly struggling. "Looks like we got another teaching opportunity," Tom said, standing up. "Want to show the class how humans handle a real repair situation?" Jane nodded. Mike's been wanting to demonstrate emergency protocols anyway. Nothing teaches better than a real problem. They headed to the classroom, where the alien students were still examining the spark plug. Mike looked up as they entered. "Class," Tom announced, "today's lesson is moving to the repair bay. We got a cruise ship coming in with engine trouble. You're about to see firsthand how humans handle an emergency repair." The alien students quickly gathered their tools, both the advanced diagnostic equipment from their homeworlds and the basic human tools they'd been learning to use. As they walked to the repair bay, one of the alien engineers fell into step beside Tom. "I must admit," the alien said, "when I first came here, I thought we were wasting our time learning about simple machines. Now I understand. It's not about the technology level. It's about understanding the basic principles that make everything work." Tom nodded. "That's exactly right. Advanced technology is wonderful, but at the end of the day, every machine follows the same basic rules. Understanding those rules is what makes a great engineer," no matter what species you are. 1 year after the first alien ship limped into Repair Station 7, Tom Miller stood at the main viewing window of the newly expanded facility. The station had grown to triple its original size, with repair bays stretching out in all directions. But what made him smile wasn't the size. It was the sight of human and alien engineers working side by side at every station. Quite a change from last year, Jane said, walking up beside him. She had just finished teaching an advanced class on human intuitive engineering to a group of alien mechanics. Remember when they called us primitive? Tom chuckled, watching a team of humans and aliens working together to fix a massive cargo ship's engine. Now they're building entire repair stations based on our designs. The station's main screen displayed a map of the galaxy, showing hundreds of dots where human repair methods were now being taught and used. Every major spaceport had at least one human engineer on staff, and the number was growing daily. Mike walked in, wiping grease from his hands. He had just finished helping install manual override systems on a fleet of alien passenger ships. "You won't believe what I just heard," he said, grinning. "The Galactic Engineering Academy is making Basic Mechanical Principles a required course for all new engineers." "Based on your car repair lessons?" Jane asked. "Yep. They said understanding simple machines helps engineers think better about complex ones. Who would have thought my old garage would become a model for galactic engineering education?" The station's communication system chimed. A holographic message appeared, showing the face of the Galactic Council's head of technology. Tom straightened up. Messages from the Council were still rare enough to be important. "Station Chief Miller," the alien official said formally. "The Council has reached a decision about your proposal." Tom held his breath. 3 months ago, he had submitted a bold plan, a series of joint human-alien repair academies spread across the galaxy, teaching both advanced technology and basic mechanical skills to all species. "Your proposal has been approved," the official continued. "Furthermore, the Council has decided to designate Earth as the galaxy's primary center for engineering education. We recognize now that humanity's primitive approach to technology has filled a crucial gap in our understanding." The message ended, leaving Tom, Jane, and Mike staring at each other in amazement. Earth, once considered a backwater planet with outdated technology, was about to become the galaxy's engineering teacher. "Well," Mike said finally, "I guess I better dust off my old teaching materials." A loud alarm interrupted their celebration. But it wasn't an emergency signal. It was the sound indicating the arrival of their newest batch of students. Tom walked to the docking bay, watching as ships from 20 different worlds arrived carrying eager engineers ready to learn the human way of fixing things. "Welcome to Repair Station 7, he announced to the gathered crowd. "You're here because your worlds have recognized something important, that sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones, and that understanding basic principles is the key to mastering advanced technology." He gestured to Jane and Mike, who stood ready with their teaching materials, a mix of high-tech displays and simple mechanical parts. "Over the next few months, you'll learn to use everything from wrenches to quantum scanners. You'll learn why humans still believe in backup systems and manual overrides. But most importantly, you'll learn to think like a human engineer, to see problems not as failures to be replaced, but as challenges to be understood and fixed." As the new students moved to their assigned areas, Tom saw something that would have been unimaginable a year ago. Alien engineers excitedly picking up basic human tools, eager to learn what humanity had known for centuries, that understanding how to fix simple things was the key to fixing everything. The station's observation window showed Earth spinning below, its surface dotted with the lights of new engineering academies. Humanity had finally found its place in the galaxy, not by advancing beyond their roots, but by remembering them. "You know what?" Jane said, watching a young alien engineer successfully use a wrench for the first time. "Maybe being primitive isn't so bad after all." Tom smiled. "Not primitive," he corrected, "just practical. And sometimes that's the most advanced thing you can be."